much, Mr. Chairman. This 5 minutes has a tendency of going so fast, so I'm going to try to read my question in the interest of time. Let me start with Mr. Dauman. Thank you very much for coming forward today. You have a great company. I know a lot about your company, and thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Viacom subsidiaries, according to our research, reaches over 500 million households worldwide. And Viacom owns the top music entertainment stations currently broadcasting in this country. Do you think that your company goes far enough with its standards and practices to ensure content is being properly reviewed for offensive content before it is broadcast to these households? Or could those standards and practices be more rigorous so as not to be derogatory to women or other individuals?
We continually review our standards. We evolve with the culture. We both reflect the culture and try to inform the culture, and we're very proud of that. Because we appeal to young people, you mentioned our 500 million plus viewers around the world, we have a responsibility not only in the U.S. but around the world as we reach young people. We're very proud of many of the initiatives we have. I mean, for example, we talked about gaming. Our NTV Youth site, we put out a free game on the internet called Darfur is Dying, which was downloaded 3 million times. So we feel we have an important role and a very pro-social role in impacting youth today. And we impact youth by entertaining them, and then once we entertain them, we reach out to them. You can always do better. Domestically in our networks, just to give you an idea, these are 24-hour-day networks. We run over 100,000 hours of programming a year on just our major domestic networks. Hundreds of thousands of hours across the globe, across all our networks.
But are you satisfied with your standards?
So some things slip by occasionally, and we review what occurs. But if you look at the totality of what we do, we are extremely proud.
But you're satisfied with your standards as they're currently written?
We believe we have appropriate standards. As I say, we review them all the time, and we have diverse group of employees reflecting their constituencies, and they think about issues that get brought up. We meet with our critics, and we meet with consumers, and I'm satisfied we have a good process.
Let me spend a couple of minutes with you, Mr. Bronfman. Thank you very much also for coming, and want to equally salute your company for the work that you do as well. Sir, you speak about Warner Music's practices regarding content, and you say that your aim is not to create or censor art, but to ensure that your artists are aware of the impact of their creation. But what do you do, sir, in an instance where a young individual doesn't care about the impact of their music or the effect that it's going to have on a certain portion of our society, when their only interest is making money and not in the social consequences of their music? Can you help me with this?
Well, sir, it's very difficult to answer a hypothetical question. As I mentioned in my testimony, we review content, and we review that content with an eye towards the personal history of the artist's history as a recording artist, and the context in which the piece of work is being created. And we take that responsibility seriously. Very difficult to answer, as I said, a hypothetical question, and very difficult to determine, sitting at the time that a record is produced, what its impact on society will be.
Do you concede that there are artists that you deal with who don't care about societal consequences?
I think the majority of artists that we work with are good American citizens who are primarily concerned with their art. That's what they do. And I'm not sure that's different in any walk or any genre.
All right, Mr. Morris, let me conclude with you, sir. While the parental advisory label on music sold in stores gives the consumer, be it a young person or a parent, a heads up on the music, what more can be done to make sure that impressionable young minds are truly educated about the potential impact that music can have on their lives?
Well, it's a discussion we have endlessly at our company. And please push the button, Mr. Dauman, or pull it closer to you, thank you. Would you repeat your question, Mr. Conlon?
Yes, let me phrase it this way. The parental advisory label that's on your music, that's sold in the stores, gives the consumer a heads up, if you will, about what type of music they are to expect And my question is, what more can be done to make sure that this young person is educated about the consequences of the music?
Yeah, I think that's, we are in continual discussion about how to improve getting that word out to the parents. As I said, all of our explicit music is stickered with an RIA certified sticker. And it shines out like a neon bulb. Then it's up to the parents to understand what's in that.
Well, I guess the point is that we all need
responsibility in all of this.
Yes, we all need to work together to better educate our families about the consequence of the music. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
The gentlelady from Tennessee, Ms. Blackburn, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for bearing with us while we run to the floor and vote, and we thank you that you're hanging with us on this hearing, because it is important. The more I listen to you, the more I think that what we're talking about is nibbling around the edges of the symptoms. We're not getting at the root causes. And Mr. Rush and I visited for a few moments while we were off at votes about we may want to come back to you with some more questions if once we have heard from the next panel. And I agree with my colleague from New York that what we may have wanted was to have that panel first and then come to you. And Mr. Chairman, if it's agreeable with you, I would like the opportunity for us to come back to them with written questions.
Without objection, we will make sure that we have 30 days to submit written questions to the witnesses, and we will ask them to promptly respond to the written questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
30 days.
We appreciate that. We keep coming back to the things that I mentioned in my opening statement, that choices have consequences, and that your standards are based on your core values from which your companies operate. And what I would like to know from each of you is how you facilitate that. Mr. Bronfman is dealing with creators of the content. Mr. Dauman and Mr. Morris are deciding what they're going to censor and put together. Mr. Liggins makes choices about what he puts on the air. Mr. Zelnick, what he's going to drop into a game. And I assume that most of you are either parents or grandparents, and you don't make these choices in a vacuum, that you have kind of an internal little thermometer, more or less, as you look at different things. And I would, and that is for you personally, but I would like to hear from you how you vet this within your company. Do you have a committee? Do you pull together your division heads? Is it just a, hey, we think this is going to make money, or is there this thoughtful process that goes into your choices? And I'd like to hear from you on that, simply because I do think we're talking about symptoms and causes when we look at the content. But the other component of this is you have that pressure of the internet. And many times I think some of you probably get blamed for releasing an uncut version of something that gets put onto YouTube or loaded into the internet, and then it's there for all the world to see. So I want to hear from you each on standards and kind of your best practices. And also, I would like to know, and you may need to submit this to me in writing, and if you want to punt this one and get back to me with a percentage, how much of your annual operating budget are you spending on education and charitable work and doing some goodwill in the community to help fight the root causes that may lead some of these content creators to write and create some of this content that they're bringing forward? So we've got 1 minute and 10 seconds left. Mr. Dauman, I will start with you.
Let me start with your last point, because we do an awful lot. I mentioned some of the initiatives that we have across our networks. Let me just talk about this week. This week.
Very quickly, we are.
Very quickly, we put $2 million of airtime and as well as $1 million in cash to raise money for the Martin Luther King Memorial. This Saturday on Nickelodeon, we're going off air on a Let's Just Play campaign where we are the only network who goes blank to encourage kids to go play. We have any number of initiatives across the globe.
I'm going to cut in and hand it to Mr. Bronfman.
Congresswoman, I'll get back to you on the exact dollars that we spend, but we have a number of initiatives across the company that the company spends money on, and then further that our executives also invest in.
Best practices or vettings?
Yes, and then the process that we follow at the company is our labels, in accordance with the RIAA guidelines, determine what is potentially going to be stickers.
Let's restate that. RIAA guidelines?
RIAA guidelines.
Thank you for clarity.
That material, those lyrics, then...
I'm going to punt to Mr. Morris, please.
Okay.
Our system is very similar to Mr. Bronfman's.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Liggins?
We're regulated by the FCC, so we're the only entity that's...
All righty. Mr. Zelnick?
We have a quarterly product review process where the creative team meets with the executive team to go through the products. And that's
Quarterly?
Quarterly. Every quarter, every product that's in development. Our products take 2 or 3 years to develop. We have an ongoing discussion about what we think we should or shouldn't do creatively. As I said, we're opposed to glorifying.
So it's a part of your everyday ongoing
Every
process?
day. Every day. Okay. Before it's released, I look at it, I play it.
My time's expired. Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I yell back.
The chair requests that the witnesses, would you please put the full context of your responses to that question in writing to the committee, please? Thank you. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My apologies to the chairman and to my colleagues for not being present during the testimony, and to the witnesses. Obviously, we have to be in 5 different places at one time, and I apologize, and I'm hoping that in your testimony you may have covered some of this, and I apologize again if in fact it's redundant. But it seems there's some considerations here. First of all, you have individuals that have raised this to a question of free speech, First Amendment, artistic expression, and so on. And when we deal with that, we all kind of retreat and we get kind of concerned. I'm not real sure that's true or not. So the first question is, from your perspective, the individuals that provide the videos, the music and such, is it really an issue of First Amendment, artistic expression, freedom of expression, and so on? Is it really about censorship? There was an article last week on the 19th in the Post, and it was about Reverend Coates being over with Black Entertainment Television and protesting, and they said, "Oh, nice try, Reverend, but, you know, we call that Talibaning. That's censorship and such." And I'm just wondering, from your perspective, if that really is a factor in making your decision about what you put out there. And the other thing is, are you factoring in that there's not as much control as to what young people get to view, listen, and download? It's a whole new age. It's the age of Squint TV, your mobile devices, what we're doing with those. Do you factor that in, that there's a tremendous audience out there that has expanded exponentially? I mean, and that people don't have control over what young people... I mean, it's one thing what you have at home, and you can supervise and such. The last thing, truly, is it just a matter of dollars? If it's going to make money, does anything else really matter? Those are the 3 questions, and if you can just real short answers, let's see if we can get through with it. And we'll start with the first gentleman. Thank you.
Congressman, again, we do listen to different voices in the community. You mentioned Reverend Coates. We've met with many people, and we listen to critics, and that informs our programmers as to what they put out. I'm not sure it's quite appropriate to harass one of our executives at her home, but that's what we contend with in a world with a First Amendment. As far as the way we look at our content and our mission, yes, we're here to make money. There is the business part of show business, but we also use our power to entertain very responsibly, in our view, and we look for opportunities to reach young people. And I do find it ironic